You have likely heard of Harvey Weinstein, the Hollywood movie mogul whose downfall kicked off the MeToo movement and a furious trial by social media lasting several years that led to firings, resignations, and cancellations across the United States and the world. For many people, Weinstein became emblematic of a class of powerful men who sexually exploit and abuse women, seemingly with total impunity. Despite being an influential figure in the film industry for nearly 4 decades, today Harvey Weinstein is a household name for all the wrong reasons. A litany of allegations of sexual harassment, quid pro quo, sexual assault, and multiple rapes. He is a byword for the sleazy casting couch producer who took his depravities to an industrial scale. But things are much more complex and disturbing than what appears on the surface. Today, we shall drill down into the accusations that ended his career and the criminal convictions that ultimately sent Weinstein to prison for the rest of his life. Not only are the details lurid and sickening, but so is the aftermath. And in the background of all of this is a self-serving, corrupt Hollywood who are either silent about or complicit in Weinstein's crimes before the scandal broke. And then they demonstrated a shallow outrage and scarcely credible surprise when the time came to be shocked, appalled, and to lecture the rest of society on the plight of women who, for several decades, the film industry had failed so badly. On either side of the storm and scandal, the goal was clear: to further their careers by any means necessary in a thoroughly broken system. At the time of writing, over 100 actresses, models, Weinstein staff members, and women from non-entertainment professions have accused Harvey Weinstein of sexual harassment. Over 20 women have accused him of sexual assault, including groping and coerced oral sex, and 18 women have accused him of outright penetrative under the New York or Los Angeles legal definitions. Weinstein has been convicted in courts of law for 2 of these, along with additional charges of sexual assault. Weinstein's typical modus operandi, according to the allegations, was to lure women to his hotel room or his apartment, disrobe, and demand a massage. A great deal of back and forth would then ensue in order to pressure the women into complying. If Weinstein managed to get a massage, or managed to pressure the women to consent to Weinstein massaging her instead, he would then quickly try to escalate the situation to something more sexual. Most frequently, this allegedly began with Weinstein performing coerced cunnilingus. Weinstein accuser Mimi Helei testified in a court of law that Weinstein pulled out her tampon in order to do so. For those cases that did not escalate, numerous women who have claimed sexual harassment would outright refuse and leave, or barricade themselves in the bathroom, or even burst out laughing in his face. Several of those women who have alleged that Harvey Weinstein methodically set about ruining their careers in revenge. Other forms of sexual harassment included unwanted touching, a flood of crass sexual remarks, offers of gifts, money, and opportunities in exchange for sex, and a downpour of lust-filled compliments based on their physical appearance. Weinstein was also known to rattle off a list of actresses who had willingly slept with him in exchange for movie roles. The star power of the women on that list was intended to convince Weinstein's next victim that he could do the same for her career if she would have sex with him. Jessica Mann had described Harvey Weinstein as physically repulsive, morbidly obese, hairy, with back acne, and a genital infection, and a layer of fat in his pelvis that obscured his testicles and significantly shortened the length of his penis, quote, making it look like he had a vagina. Another one of Weinstein's emerged victims, Lauren Young, commented in a Los Angeles court that, quote, his testicles were actually taken from his scrotum and put into his inner thighs, adding that his penis looked like it had been chopped off and sewn back on. Jessica Mann also alleges that Weinstein suffered from chronic erectile dysfunction, for which he required regular injections. Weinstein seems to have been fully aware of his physical shortcomings. Several of his harassment victims who rejected him recalled Weinstein bursting into tears. New Zealand actress Zoe Brock, after barricading herself in the bathroom and rebuffing his advances, claims that when she came out, quote, he started to cry, and he said something that I have never forgotten, and I never will for the rest of my days. Between his tears, you don't like me because I'm fat. And so, it seems likely that all the high-powered careerism, the bullish tactics in business, and the relentless harassment of some of the world's most beautiful women might have been born out of compensation for Harvey Weinstein's own self-loathing and a deeply rooted inferiority complex. And it would appear such a toxic psychological cocktail wound up hurting dozens and dozens of people. Harvey Weinstein was born in 1952 in Queens, New York, and attended New York State University in Buffalo between 1969 and 1973 before dropping out to pursue his concert promotion business full-time with his brother, Bob. Their business was highly profitable, and in 1979 they started up the film production company Miramax. Initially, the Weinsteins released concert footage like Paul McCartney's rock show in 1980. Then they shifted toward producing pictures deemed financially infeasible by the larger studios. They also distributed European films to a niche market in America. Miramax's first theatrical film was a stereotypical slasher flick called The Burning in 1981. Throughout the 1980s, they were a fairly low-status, independent production company until 1989, when three things happened. First, Miramax distributed two foreign films, a British movie called The Cook, The Thief, His Wife and Her Lover, and the Spanish film Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down, both of which the Motion Picture Association of America slapped with an X rating, preventing widespread US distribution. Weinstein sued the MPAA, gaining a lot of press attention and leading to the invention of the NC-17 rating 2 months later. That same year, the Weinsteins produced a smash hit, Steven Soderbergh's Sex, Lies and Videotape. Finally, in 1989, they distributed the British film My Left Foot, starring Daniel Day-Lewis, which made millions at the box office and won dozens of nominations and awards in a single year. This made Miramax and the Weinsteins a force to be reckoned with in Hollywood. In 1992, Miramax released both Quentin Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs and Neil Jordan's The Crying Game, the latter of which was nominated for an Oscar for Best Picture. This continued success prompted Disney to buy Miramax for $80 million in 1993, while allowing the Weinstein brothers to stay on as heads of the company. In 1994, the tremendous success of Miramax's Pulp Fiction and Clerks sent the reputation of the Weinstein brothers into the stratosphere. Their status in the film industry was further cemented by the release of Trainspotting, Swingers, and The English Patient in 1996, the last of which won an Oscar for Best Picture, the 1997 release of Chasing Amy, Mrs. Brown, and Good Will Hunting, and the 1998 release of Shakespeare in Love, which won yet another set of Oscars and arguably made Harvey and Bob Weinstein the most powerful movie producers in Hollywood. The hits continued to flow in. Then, in 2004, Harvey and Bob left Disney to form their own production company, the aptly named Weinstein Company, where they continued to produce box office successes. Most notably, the Tarantino films Inglourious Basterds, Django Unchained, and The Hateful Eight, along with The King's Speech, Silver Linings Playbook, The Artist, and The Imitation Game. Like all movie studios, amid the hits was a flood of utter tripe, but there is no denying that from 1989 to 2017, Weinstein was a very powerful man in Hollywood who could make or break careers, and he often did. At the same time, Harvey Weinstein became an influential figure in Democratic politics, backing the presidential runs of John Kerry, Barack Obama, and Hillary Clinton. He not only gave generous personal donations, but had the ability to raise millions from his fellow Hollywood elites by hosting events, dinners, and making phone calls to those he had under his thumb. Weinstein could also call upon a veritable army of A-list celebrities in his pocket to endorse whatever cause he deemed worthy. Gun control, AIDS research, universal healthcare, and efforts to tackle inner city poverty. In a perverse twist, he used his money and influence to endow a faculty chair position for media, culture, and feminist studies at Rutgers University, and named it in honor of the second wave feminist leader, Gloria Steinem. All told, Weinstein had some of the most powerful people in the country on speed dial, being on personal terms with a number of them via such connections. Barack Obama's daughter, Malia, interned at the Weinstein Company in 2017. And in particular, Harvey Weinstein befriended Bill and Hillary Clinton, a connection that will become relevant later. A clip that has been played thousands of times since Harvey Weinstein's downfall is of veteran actress Meryl Streep jokingly likening Weinstein to God at an award show. Indeed, a 2015 analysis of 1,400 Oscars acceptance speeches found that Harvey Weinstein was thanked much more often than God and came second only to director Steven Spielberg. Bottom line, you didn't with Harvey Weinstein. And if you wanted to get ahead in Hollywood, you were well advised to stay on his good side, especially if you were a naive young actress hoping to score a breakthrough role in a major Hollywood film. Get on Harvey Weinstein's bad side, however, and you could quickly find yourself living up the old producer's cliche, you'll never work in this town again. In 1997, rising actress Rose McGowan attended the Sundance Film Festival in Park City, Utah. She had only been in the industry a handful of years, but that year she had 3 feature films and 1 short film screening at the festival. One of the films was Going All the Way, a comedy drama set in the 1950s in which McGowan had to do a topless scene. At the screening, McGowan was sat next to her manager Jill, who leaned over and whispered that Harvey Weinstein, the powerful movie mogul who had produced 2 of McGowan's other films, including the box office blockbuster Scream, was sat a few feet away. McGowan had only seen Weinstein's names in movie credits before. She had no idea what he looked like, but she didn't dare turn around since it would be too obvious she was looking at him. When McGowan's topless scene came on, she was embarrassed and slid down in her seat, remembering how she had cried after shooting it. In the row behind her, Weinstein had his eyes glued to the screen. When the movie ended and the lights came back on, McGowan turned around and noticed that Weinstein was gone. He had left the screening early. However, a few minutes later, McGowan's manager told her excitedly that Weinstein wanted to meet McGowan the next morning at 10 o'clock in the restaurant of the Stein Erikson Hotel. McGowan expressed reluctance to go, citing her already packed interview schedule at the festival, but her manager insisted, emphasizing that Weinstein held the keys to Hollywood and ultra-stardom. He could make or break careers. If she went, it seemed likely that she would be elevated to Weinstein's chosen few. If she refused to go, McGowan risked insulting Weinstein and damaging her career. Faced with those arguments, McGowan agreed to go on. She got up the next morning and exited her hotel, where an MTV film crew met her. They were following her around for the day for a celebrity feature. They headed to the Stein Erikson together. The MTV crew were to wait outside the hotel while McGowan met Weinstein. Before entering the building, McGowan turned to the camera and said, quote, "I think my life is finally getting easier." Rose made her way to the hotel restaurant, where she was greeted by the maitre d', informed McGowan that Weinstein had been held up in a business call in the office of his hotel suite. The maitre d' instructed Rose to go up to Weinstein's suite and wait. She smiled, nodded, and thanked the man. He did not smile back. McGowan made her way up to Weinstein's room and knocked on the door. It was opened by 2 male assistants. They said nothing to McGowan and avoided eye contact as they pushed past her and left McGowan to walk into the hotel room alone. She spotted Weinstein sitting on the couch in the living room of the enormous suite, talking on the telephone. He gestured for McGowan to sit down. She sat on the other end of the couch, 5 feet away from him. Having laid eyes on Weinstein for the first time, McGowan was repulsed and thought he looked like a melted pineapple. McGowan waited patiently for 5 minutes while Weinstein finished up his phone call. Finally, he hung up, turned to McGowan, and blandly asked her what sort of projects she wanted to do. McGowan replied that she wanted to do projects that mattered. There was an awkward pause in the conversation while Weinstein studied her, and so McGowan filled the silence by talking about her love of classic films. Randomly, Weinstein interjected to mention that there was a jacuzzi in his hotel room. McGowan wasn't sure what to respond, so she responded, "Oh," and continued talking about classic films, and then moved on to telling Weinstein her personal background. At 10:30 a.m, Weinstein stood up, the meeting presumably having concluded without him saying much of anything or proposing any movie roles for her. Weinstein offered to walk McGowan to the door. McGowan got up and walked toward the entrance hallway with Weinstein's heavy frame lumbering behind her. McGowan's impression at that point was that the meeting had gone well. As they walked down the hallway, McGowan's mind was already on what she was going to say to the MTV crew waiting outside. Suddenly, Weinstein stopped. McGowan turned around. "This is the jacuzzi room," Weinstein said, gesturing toward a door halfway down the entrance hall. McGowan's account of what followed was that, without warning, Weinstein pushed her into the jacuzzi room. McGowan was in a state of total confusion as to what was going on. Then Weinstein began to tear McGowan's clothes. She backed away until she hit the far wall and she froze. Within the space of approximately 30 seconds, Weinstein had stripped her naked. Then Weinstein picked McGowan up and placed her on the edge of the jacuzzi while he got into the water. He placed his hands on McGowan's knees, forced her legs apart, and performed coerced oral sex on her. McGowan was still frozen in shock, but she began to cry. Meanwhile, with one hand holding her in place, Weinstein took his other hand and began to masturbate under the water while he continued to force himself on her. McGowan racked her brain on how to get out of there without getting hurt. She was only 5'4" compared to Weinstein's 6 feet and probably a third of his weight. McGowan threw her mind back to the diner scene when Harry met Sally and began to fake an orgasm. This tactic had the desired effect, and McGowan recalled seeing Harvey Weinstein's semen floating amid the bubbles of the jacuzzi. A moment later, Weinstein coldly instructed her to get dressed and get out. Rose made her way down to the lobby of the hotel and walked toward the exit, shaking the entire time. Outside, she was confronted by the MTV crew, who asked how the meeting went. McGowan gave a non-committal reply and got in the car to take her to the press junket for the movie Phantoms. When she arrived, she told her co-star, Ben Affleck, that Harvey Weinstein had just sexually assaulted her. According to McGowan, Affleck replied, "God damn it, I told him to stop doing that." That same day, McGowan purchased a plane ticket and left the Sundance Film Festival prematurely. Weinstein heard about this and called her repeatedly. His messages stated that he was McGowan's, quote, new special friend, and he listed off a number of actresses whom he'd elevated in exchange for sex, some of whom were in line for Oscars. McGowan vomited when she first heard the messages and did not return Weinstein's calls. When McGowan told her manager what had happened, the older woman replied that she should see it as constructive for her career in the long run. This struck Rose as bizarrely cold and insensitive. She called the head of her management agency, who allegedly replied, "Damn it, I just had an expose about Weinstein killed in the LA Times. He owes me not to do this." McGowan's next move was to talk to a criminal lawyer about pressing charges against Weinstein. She was told, quote, "You are an actress. You've done a sex scene. You'll never win, you're done." Then McGowan got a call from her entertainment lawyer, who urged her to come out publicly against Weinstein, but McGowan knew if she did that, Weinstein wouldn't suffer any serious consequences, while she would never work again. Instead, she told her lawyer to seek compensations in civil court, saying that she would need the money for intensive therapy and to donate to a crisis center. In 1997, McGowan reached a financial settlement with Weinstein for $100,000, in which she pledged not to pursue criminal charges for the incident. Shortly thereafter, McGowan got word that Weinstein was phoning every studio in Hollywood in an attempt to have her blacklisted. And this was far from unique. Dozens more women suffered like her, as we shall see. Countless women have claimed that Harvey Weinstein sexually harassed them or offered them a quid pro quo. Among them are Cate Blanchett, Helena Bonham Carter, Angelina Jolie, Paris Hilton, Salma Hayek, Heather Graham, Lena Headey, Eva Green, and Lupita Nyong'o. Quite disturbingly, it's claimed that in 1990, Weinstein sexually harassed a 17-year-old Kate Beckinsale and tried to ply her with alcohol. Furthermore, Rosanna Arquette, Mira Sorvino, and Ashley Judd have claimed that Weinstein sabotaged their acting careers after they rejected his sexual advances. Lord of the Rings director Peter Jackson has supported these claims, saying that Weinstein told him Sorvino and Judd were difficult to work with. After the scandal broke, Harvey Weinstein admitted to having consensual affairs with actresses and offering women career opportunities in exchange for sex. He has denied sabotaging anyone's careers if they've rejected his proposals. His lawyers and representatives have also repeatedly insisted that all sexual relations that Weinstein had were quote-unquote consensual. You can take these statements for what you think they are worth. Not unsurprisingly, at the time of writing, no Hollywood actress has come forward to admit that they voluntarily took a quid pro quo from Harvey Weinstein without being somehow coerced. Even those actresses who have openly admitted to having an ongoing sexual relationship with Harvey Weinstein have claimed they were intimidated into doing so. It's alleged by multiple witnesses that Weinstein frequently bragged that Gwyneth Paltrow had slept with him for the role in Shakespeare in Love, and then he campaigned heavily to get her an Oscar for it. Paltrow's boyfriend at the time, Brad Pitt, even allegedly confronted Weinstein about his harassment of her, although Pitt continued to work on several Weinstein projects in the following decades, something which made his future wife, Angelina Jolie, uncomfortable, since she had also been harassed by Weinstein and refused to work in another one of his pictures. Weinstein also reportedly claimed to witnesses that he slept with Renee Zellweger in exchange for the leading role in Chicago and with Charlize Theron for her role in Cider House Rules. Paltrow, Zellweger, and Theron have all issued statements vehemently denying that accepted a quid pro quo from Harvey Weinstein. The allegations against Weinstein go far beyond the sleaze of the casting couch into the realm of blatant criminal behavior. As shady as things seem so far in this video, they're about to get a whole lot darker. Weinstein was also accused of sexually assaulting dozens of women over the course of his decades-long career. In 1979, just after starting Miramax, Weinstein allegedly forced aspiring actress Cynthia Burr to perform fellatio on him in a hotel hallway. Among the women who have accused Weinstein of sexual assault are Uma Thurman, Asia Argento, Liz Curry, Natalie Mendoza, and Jennifer Sable. later the wife of California governor Gavin Newsom. His assaults include interfering with a minor when he forced himself on the then 16-year-old Kaja Zakola in New York City in 2002. Numerous victims have claimed that Weinstein had assistants deliver them to his hotel room or office under false pretenses. Very often these assistants were female to make the actresses feel more comfortable being in Weinstein's presence, but then the assistant would allegedly disappear and the sexual assault would begin. Conversely, Leslie Headland, now a director and showrunner for Disney, was an assistant at Weinstein's company from 2003 to 2009, including a year she spent as Weinstein's personal assistant. She has denied ever witnessing or being complicit in any acts of sexual assault. Her 2012 play Assistants involves a movie mogul based on Harvey Weinstein, but does not mention sexual assault. It does, however, include an epilogue by one of his assistants saying that she knew things that could destroy his reputation. Weinstein has also been accused of penetrative by 24 women, including Natasha Malte, Paz de la Huerta, and Melissa Thompson. The earliest known case was of Hope Exner d'Amour in the late 1970s, when Weinstein was still running a concept promotion business in Buffalo. And Sopranos actress Annabella Sciorra claims that when she confronted Weinstein after her own ordeal, saying she did not want it to happen, Weinstein allegedly replied, "That's what all good Catholic girls say." One of the most harrowing stories concerns Hollywood producer Alexandra Canosa, who alleges that in 2010, Harvey Weinstein raped her for the first time in her hotel room at the Tribeca Grand Hotel in New York. According to Canosa, Weinstein then threatened to destroy her career, and so there were subsequent assaults and involving threats, verbal abuse, forced oral sex, and non-consensual penetrative sex across the world in hotels like LA, New York, Hungary, and Malaysia. The final assault allegedly happened in September 2017, shortly before Weinstein was exposed. In 2001, journalist David Carr tried to publish a piece in The New Yorker about Harvey Weinstein's activities, but the two victims he tried to get on record ultimately decided to remain silent. In 2004, journalist Sharon Waxman was prevented by the management of The New York Times from running a story on Weinstein. Waxman had spoken to a former member of staff who claimed to have acted as a quote-unquote facilitator and enabler, and also a woman that Weinstein had assaulted and paid to keep quiet. Waxman said, quote, "I think there was not enough evidence to print what people had heard vaguely." There are also allegations that Weinstein pressured the New York Times to bury the story. In 2005, Courtney Love said on the red carpet of a movie premiere, quote, "If Harvey Weinstein invites you to a party at the Four Seasons, don't go." She later claimed that the industry executives responded by pressuring her not to make insinuations or allegations about Weinstein in public ever again. In 2011, Weinstein invited Jessica Barth to his penthouse apartment to discuss some projects. She arrived to discover Weinstein had popped a bottle of champagne, and allegedly, Weinstein proposed that he strip off his clothes so Barth could give him a massage. Barth declined and left, knowing that she wouldn't be getting any roles from him. She later told her colleague, Seth MacFarlane, about the encounter. Subsequently, in a rare public acknowledgement of Weinstein's actions, when announcing for the nominees for Best Supporting Actresses at a side event prior to the 2013 Oscars, MacFarlane said, quote, "Congratulations, ladies. You no longer have to pretend to be attracted to Harvey Weinstein." In 2012, in the primetime TV show 30 Rock, Jane Krakowski's character, Jenna, made the joke, "I'm not afraid of anyone in show business. I turned down intercourse with Harvey Weinstein on no less than 3 occasions out of 5. The fact that such a joke would have landed at all indicates just how widespread rumours were about Weinstein, but the Hollywood machine and the public at large scarcely took notice of such jokes, and nothing came of them. In 2015, Lauren O'Connor, a creative executive at Weinstein Company, circulated a memo to multiple executives prior to her resignation. She accused Harvey Weinstein of sexually harassing and physically assaulting multiple women. The memo was soon leaked to journalists, but no one dared to print it. That same year, Ashley Judd came forward and talked to Variety about her experience being sexually harassed and her career being sabotaged, but she didn't accuse Weinstein by name at the time. Also in 2015, Weinstein lured Ambra Gutierrez to a hotel room in New York City, where shortly after she came in, Weinstein allegedly inquired whether her breasts were real and then groped them. Gutierrez swiftly went to the NYPD and reported the assault. The police outfitted her with a wire and sent her back to Weinstein's hotel room the following day. There, she had a conversation with Weinstein, which was captured on tape, where he appears to admit to and apologize for assaulting Gutierrez, though he quickly mumbled a few words words of apology that do not definitively constitute a confession. It was, however, enough for the DA to take on the case. That is, until news reports surfaced that the 22-year-old Amber Gutierrez had previously been a quote-unquote sugar baby for a 70-year-old man back in Italy whom she later tried to prosecute for sexual assault. Gutierrez later admitted to having sex with the man in exchange for gifts for a period of about a week. This was enough for the DA to drop her case, since it wouldn't play well with the jury. There are allegations that Weinstein's PR team and private spy contractors dug up this information and leaked it to the press. Gutierrez later signed a non-disclosure agreement with Weinstein in exchange for $1 million. One of the terms of that agreement was that Gutierrez destroy all copies of the wire recording. She kept one copy hidden away on a computer and released it to the media in 2017. In 2016, Lena Dunham caught wind of some serious rumors about Harvey Weinstein's conduct. She contacted the Hillary Clinton presidential election campaign, of which both Dunham and Weinstein were major supporters and donors, and informed them that it might damage Clinton's image to be associated with someone like Weinstein. Dunham allegedly named specific instances of harassment and sexual assault, but former staffers from the Clinton campaign deny ever getting specific allegations. In the spring of 2017, New York Times journalists Jodi Kantor and Megan Twohy began working on their expose of Harvey Weinstein. Around the same time, NBC correspondent Ronan Farrow independently commenced work on the same story. Word got back to Weinstein what these journalists were cooking up. According to Ronan Farrow, Hillary Clinton's publicist, Nick Merrill, got in touch with him and asked him to drop the Weinstein story as it was, quote, a concern for us. Then in September 2017, Weinstein himself allegedly contacted NBC and tried to bribe them with a proposed docu-series on Hillary Clinton if they would drop the story. Under this pressure, Farrow claims that NBC quashed the story. Meanwhile, Weinstein allegedly contacted Farrow's estranged father, Woody Allen, also an accused sexual abuser, asking him to help bring his son to heel. Allen reportedly refused. Then, on October 5th, 2017, Kantor and Twohy published their story in the New York Times recounting decades of harassment, sexual assault, and rape. Rose McGowan and Ashley Judd were among the first women who came forward in the article. That same day, Weinstein issued a non-apology saying he, quote, knew he caused a lot of pain, but disputed the allegations made against him. He also added that he was taking a leave of absence and was going to attend therapy sessions. 3 days later, he was asked to resign from the board of directors at the Weinstein Company. On October 10th, Ronan Farrow published his story, originally intended for NBC, in The New Yorker. The article contained the testimonies of 13 more women claiming harassment, assault, and that same day, Weinstein's wife, Georgina Chapman, announced that she was divorcing him. Also, on the 10th, 5 days after the publication of the New York Times article, Hillary Clinton released a public statement disavowing Weinstein, claiming she had no idea or prior knowledge and being, quote, shocked and appalled by the allegations. In the subsequent days, additional allegations from dozens of actresses flooded in from print and television and posts on social media, particularly Twitter. On the 14th, Weinstein was expelled from the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, which administrates the Oscars. On October 18th, Harvard University stripped Weinstein of the Du Bois Medal they had awarded him in 2014 for contributions to African American culture. On the 19th, police in Los Angeles, New York, and London confirmed they were looking into allegations of sexual assault and rape committed by Weinstein. On October 30th, the Producers Guild of America banned Weinstein for life. On October 15th, actress Alyssa Milano tweeted out that other women who had encountered sexual harassment and assault should reply with the phrase, me too. The phrase quickly became a hashtag on Twitter. The following day, Milano linked the hashtag to an earlier sexual harassment and assault movement founded by activist Tarana Burke, who also used the phrase. For several years, the MeToo movement was a vehicle for other victims of harassment and assault to accuse alleged perpetrators on social media, leading to several resignations and criminal prosecutions of high-powered executives and actors in Hollywood, along with numerous people in other industries in America and the wider world. Use of the hashtag significantly declined after the 2022 defamation trial between Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. On October 7th, 2017, one of Weinstein's accusers, Asia Argento, tweeted out a Google Doc listing all of Weinstein's potential victims. At the time, there were over 100 separate allegations ranging from 1980 to 2015. For the next several months, Argento became one of the most outspoken activists in the movement that was forming around the hashtags MeToo and Time's Up, including a furious speech she gave at the Cannes Film Festival. However, in August 2018, Argento herself was hit by allegations that in California in 2013, she had committed statutory rape against the then 17-year-old actor Jimmy Bennett, who she had first met on a movie set when he was 7. It's also alleged that, shortly after going public with her own allegations against Weinstein the previous year, Argento had arranged to get Bennett to sign an NDA in exchange for $380,000. When the allegations came out, Argento initially denied them, but once pictures of them in bed together were published, Argento's lawyer admitted that there was a sexual encounter, but claimed that Bennett had, quote, sexually attacked Argento. Meanwhile, back on November 28, 2017, the first civil court claim seeking financial restitution was filed against Weinstein by an anonymous plaintiff in the UK. Many more civil court cases would follow in lieu of many of Weinstein's accusers being able to prosecute him in criminal court due to the statute of limitations or lack of evidence. On February 2018, New York prosecutors announced a lawsuit against the Weinstein Company for failing to protect its employees from sexual harassment and abuse. On March 20th, 2018, the Weinstein Company filed for bankruptcy. After having his reputation and his company destroyed in the court of public opinion, the question was, could someone get Weinstein convicted in a criminal court and win some semblance of justice? On May 25th, 2018, Harvey Weinstein turned himself in to New York police and was charged with multiple counts of sexual assault against 2 women. Jessica Mann, whom he allegedly attacked in 2013, and Lucia Evans, whom he allegedly attacked in 2004. He was released the next day on $1 million bail and with a GPS tracker on his ankle. Weinstein's bail was later raised to $5 million after he was accused of tampering with or disabling his GPS tracker on multiple occasions. Weinstein was indicted by a grand jury for the Mann and Evans charges on May 31st. On July 2nd, 2018, Mimi Halei added charges from her sexual assault in 2006 to the prosecution in New York. On October 11th, 2018, Lucia Evans' case was thrown out by a judge because her account to the police differed from the account she gave to other witnesses. The charge laid on behalf of Halei and Mann would, however, go on trial. On September 17th, 2019, Weinstein's lawyer, Donna Rotuno, told the media that, quote, I'm not here to say that he was not guilty of committing sins, but there's a difference between sins and crimes, and I don't think he's a On October 3rd, Weinstein's defense team lost their bid to move his trial outside of New York. They responded, quote, New York is the least likely place on earth where jurors can reach a fair verdict, in an atmosphere free of intimidation from pressure to deliver a result that politicians, activists, celebrities, and the media demand. Harvey Weinstein's New York trial began on January 6th, 2020. He showed up to court looking thin and frail, making use of a walker. Some commentators observed that this tactic had also been used by New York mafia bosses when they stood trial for violating racketeering laws in the 1990s and early 2000s. On the same day as the New York trial began, the district attorney for Los Angeles County announced that they would be prosecuting Weinstein for the 2013 of Evgenia Chernyshova. The New York trial was anything but cut and dry. Mimi Halei testified that on July 10th, 2006, Weinstein convinced her to come to his New York apartment where Weinstein allegedly held her down on the bed, took off her pants, removed her tampon, and forced cunnilingus on her. Halei, a Finnish national, said she did not report the assault to the police because she had begun working illegally as a production assistant on Project Runway on a tourist visa. On July 26th, 2 days after returning to New York, Halei met Weinstein at the Tribeca Grand Hotel, went up to his room, where Halei notes she did not resist while they had what the defense team called consensual sex. Over the next 2 years, Halei sent Weinstein multiple emails where she thanked him for his help in her career, sent him her quote-unquote love, and said that it was great seeing him when she met with Weinstein in LA to pitch him an idea she had for a TV prank show. Meanwhile, Jessica Mann had met Weinstein in January 2013 at a party in Los Angeles, and over the next 2 months, they attended several events together and performed a number of consensual sex acts on each other. During this period, Mann decided to try and pursue a romantic relationship with Weinstein. In March 2013, Jessica Mann traveled to New York with her agent, Tommy Richards, and friend, Talita Mayer. The 3 of them met with Weinstein at the DoubleTree Hotel, and Weinstein ultimately convinced Mann to go up to his room alone with him. Mann testified that she attempted to leave twice, but that Weinstein blocked her way and held the door shut. He removed Mann's clothes against her will and ordered her into the bedroom. Weinstein then disrobed and laid down on top of Mann so that she could not move, and proceeded to have penetrative sex with her. Her agent, Richards, and her friend Maya testified that the next morning they noticed nothing amiss with Mann and that she and Weinstein interacted in a friendly fashion. Richards also testified that Mann declared that she was going to spend an extra day in New York with Weinstein rather than flying back with him. After the incident, Mann continued to send Weinstein emails that were characterized in court as, quote, flattering in nature. Then, in Los Angeles, in February 2014, Mann met with Weinstein at his penthouse and told him she had recently gotten a boyfriend. Mann then alleges Weinstein attacked her, forced oral sex, and her again. After the second incident, Mann sent Weinstein more emails that were characterized in court as being flattering in nature and seeking out his advice on both personal and professional matters. Furthermore, in subsequent months, she would occasionally still engage in consensual sexual encounters with Weinstein. With no direct physical evidence, this potentially muddied the waters for the jury in deliberating over guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. For both the Haley and Mann cases, the prosecution relied on the testimony of expert witness Dr. Barbara Ziv, who said that victims of sexual assault may behave in ways that are counterintuitive to what outside observers may expect, namely the continued friendly relations of Haley and Mann with Weinstein after the incidents in question. The defense countered this with the testimony of Dr. Elizabeth Loftus, who said that a person being urged and placed under stress to remember the details of an event can imprint false memories thereafter. The prosecution also brought in witnesses who claimed to have been sexually assaulted all by Weinstein, but whose cases had either passed the statute of limitations, were in the wrong jurisdiction, or did not have enough evidence to proceed to trial. The prosecution intended their testimonies to establish a pattern of behaviour. The defence objected to the testimony of these witnesses, saying it would prejudice the minds of the jurors when deciding guilt beyond a reasonable doubt in the cases of Mann and Haley. The jury deliberated for 5 days, and on the 24th of February 2020, they acquitted Weinstein on 2 counts of predatory sexual assault where the perpetrator had to cause severe physical injury or use a weapon. These charges potentially carried a life sentence. Meanwhile, the jury found Weinstein guilty of a first-degree sexual assault of Mimi Haley in his New York penthouse in 2006 and guilty of the third-degree Jessica Mann at the Doubletree Hotel in 2013. On March 11th, 2020, the judge sentenced Weinstein to 23 years in prison. It later came out that juror number 11 had failed to mention that she was writing a book at the time on older predatory men who took advantage of young women. Weinstein's defense team declared that this fact would be part of their planned appeal of the verdict, along with what they called numerous errors made by the judge, including the use of some of Weinstein's other accusers as propensity witnesses to establish a pattern of behavior, depriving Weinstein of a fair trial. On April 12, 2021, Harvey Weinstein was indicted on 11 counts of sexual assault in Los Angeles County. On June 15th, a New York judge ruled that Weinstein could be extradited to California to stand trial. On July 21st, he appeared in a Los Angeles courtroom in a wheelchair to plead not guilty. The prosecution and defense began preparing their cases for the trial, which would occur the following year. On June 2nd, 2022, a New York appellate judge rejected Weinstein's appeal against his conviction on grounds of mismanagement in the original trial. Further appeals followed. On June 8th, 2022, the Crown Prosecution Service in the UK allowed Weinstein to be charged by the Metropolitan Police with 2 accounts of indecent assault in London in 1996. On October 25th, 2022, Weinstein's Los Angeles trial began, with him facing 11 charges for crimes perpetrated against 4 women: Jennifer Seable Newsom in 2005, an identified masseuse in 2010, and both Lauren Young and Evgenia Chernyshova in 2013. The unidentified masseuse testified that in May 2010, Harvey Weinstein hired her to give him a massage. After she was finished, Weinstein allegedly cornered her in the bathroom, groped her, and masturbated in front of her. On cross-examination, the defense made great play of the fact that after the incident, the masseuse agreed to massage Weinstein a number of times whenever he was in Los Angeles. Ultimately, the jury acquitted Weinstein on all charges related to the assault. The First Lady of California, Jennifer Seable Newsom, testified that in 2005, Weinstein invited her to a Los Angeles hotel room under the pretext of discussing her potential acting career. Then Weinstein allegedly picked Seable Newsom up and carried her into the bedroom, forced oral sex on her, manually penetrated her, and then coerced her to stimulate his penis with her hand. Newsom burst into tears while she gave her testimony and shouted, He knows this is not normal. He knows this is not consent. Weinstein's defense team countered by claiming that this was consensual sex involving quid pro quo, but Siebel Newsom later, quote-unquote, rebranded as to avoid being labelled as one of the women who voluntarily took Weinstein's deal, and also to capitalise on the political momentum of the MeToo movement. The defence pointed toward the fact that Siebel Newsom sent Weinstein numerous friendly emails after the incident, and a few years later she and her husband, Gavin Newsom, then mayor of San Francisco, accepted an invitation to attend one of Weinstein's parties. To quote one of the defence lawyers, Mark Worksman, she brought her husband to meet and party with her. Who does that? He took money from his wife's for his political campaigns. If she wasn't the First Lady of California, she'd be another bimbo who slept with Harvey Weinstein to get ahead. In the end, there was a hung jury on the Siebel Newsom charges, with 8 in favour of a guilty verdict and 4 against. Lauren Young testified that during the Italia Film Festival in Los Angeles on February 19, 2013, Harvey Weinstein met with her at the Montage Hotel to discuss a script. Then, Weinstein brought her into the bathroom, stripped off his clothes, unzipped Young's dress, groped her, and then masturbated in front of her. Young had also testified at the New York trial to establish a pattern of behaviour for the Mann and Halle cases. The defence pointed out that Weinstein's DNA was not found on her dress, so they could not prove Weinstein touched her, and questioned how Weinstein could have taken off a 2-piece suit so quickly before Young had a chance to flee from the bathroom. They also pointed out that Young's testimony differed significantly from the one that she gave police in 2018, in which she claimed the assault happened a year earlier. And in her first 3 interviews with police, the last being in 2020, she could not remember that it was the Montage Hotel where the incident had taken place. Like with Siebel Newsom, the jury was hung on a verdict with 10 voting for a conviction and 2 against. It fell to Evgenia Chernyshova, who claimed that Weinstein raped her on February 18, 2013, also during the Italia Film Festival, and just a day prior to the alleged incident with Lauren Young. Unlike many of Weinstein's accusers, Chernyshova was not in a business meeting with him when the incident occurred. In fact, Chernyshova barely knew Weinstein, having only briefly met him at the festival. Somehow, Chernyshova testified Weinstein had figured out where she was staying and her room number and pounded on the door in the middle of the night. Chernyshova claimed she physically resisted and shouted no multiple times while Weinstein forced her to perform oral sex on him. She then testified she stopped physically resisting but continued to object verbally when Weinstein pulled her into the bathroom and her. Chernyshova stated that she was traumatized by the event and began drinking heavily the next day. Weinstein's defense team denied that he had shown up to Chernyshova's hotel room at all on the night in question and pointed out that no records, no witnesses, and no surveillance footage placed Weinstein at the hotel. Chernyshova was married at the time of the incident, and the defense team pointed out that shortly thereafter she sent sexual text messages to an Italian director who was not her husband. Like in New York, several other Weinstein accusers testified at the trial, including Amber Gutierrez and Natasha Mouth, to establish a pattern of behaviour. After a 2-month trial, the jury spent 9 days deliberating on the cases of all 4 women, and on December 20 of 2022, they found Harvey Weinstein guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of the charges of forced oral copulation and 3rd-degree sexual misconduct for the attack on Evgenia Chernyshova. Like with the New York trial, Weinstein's defense team declared that they would appeal the verdict. On February 23, 2023, Weinstein was sentenced to 16 years imprisonment. Combined with the New York sentence, that added up to 39 years behind bars. Weinstein was 70 years old at the time of his second conviction and allegedly in poor health, and it looked like Harvey Weinstein would die in prison. However, on April 25, 2024, Weinstein's New York conviction for the 1st-degree sexual assault of Mimi Halle and the 3rd-degree Jessica Mann were overturned. The New York Court of Appeals cited the use of propensity witnesses to establish a pattern of behaviour from accusers whose allegations have not been tested in court. Propensity witnesses are used in criminal trials for everything from stalking to murder. However, the judicial bar they have to meet is that they have to be logically connected to the crime actually being tried. Propensity witnesses may not be used just to establish a defendant's bad character. Ultimately, the Court of Appeals found that the use of testimony from other Weinstein accusers was more prejudicial than probative and unfairly poisoned the jury against him, depriving him of a fair trial. The court also found the error was worsened by the prosecution cross-examining Weinstein on the testimony of propensity witnesses, along with questioning him on other unproven allegations made about Weinstein by still more accusers in the media. The Court of New York Appeals ordered a retrial during which propensity witnesses are unlikely to be used and where more weight will be placed on the testimonies of Mann and Halei. If Weinstein is acquitted at retrial, that shaves 23 years off his prison time. At the time of filming, it's unclear whether Weinstein's legal team will also be able to successfully overturn his Los Angeles charges for the similar use of propensity witnesses during the trial there. Watch this space. After Harvey Weinstein was exposed, the most common reaction to come from the Hollywood elite and Weinstein's other longtime associates was shock and disgust, denying prior knowledge of Weinstein's misconduct. Not a rumour, not a whisper, as if over 100 abused women had simply fallen from the sky. For example, Meryl Streep, who had worked on numerous Weinstein projects, said, quote, "This disgraceful news about Harvey Weinstein has appalled those of us whose work he championed, and those whose good worthy causes he supported. One thing can be clarified, not everybody knew. It really underlined my own sense of cluelessness, and also how evil, deeply evil and duplicitous a person he was, yet such a champion of really great work." In response, Rose McGowan, who accused Weinstein of sexually assaulting her in 1997, has said that it was, quote, "literally impossible that Meryl Streep didn't know about the Weinstein allegations before they went public." She added, quote, "I know these people. They're lily-livered. As long as it looks good on the surface, to them, that's enough." However, a small minority of people did come forward to admit that they knew something of Weinstein's outrages. For instance, director Quentin Tarantino, who worked with Weinstein on many projects and functionally owed the man his career, said, quote, "I knew enough to do more than I did. There was more to it than just the normal rumors, the normal gossip. It wasn't secondhand. I knew that he did a couple of these things. I wish I had taken responsibility for what I had heard." Additionally, Paul Webster, who was president of production at Miramax from 1995 to 1997, has said, quote, "It didn't take much brain power to put it together that a man who was so abusive and bullying in every aspect of his life would bring that abuse into the sexual arena. I think, looking back, that I did know it, and I chose to suppress it. I chose to hide from that fact. I think we were all enablers. I think we were all complicit. I didn't have the guts to do anything about it. I think the deal I made with the devil was to my advantage." Writer and producer Scott Rosenberg went even further, quote, "If Harvey's behaviour is the most representable thing one can imagine, then a not so distant second is the current flood of sanctimonious denial and condemnation that now crashes upon these shores of rectitude in gloppy tides of righteousness. And do you know how I am sure that this is true? Because I was there, and I saw you, and I talked about it with you. You, the big producers, you, the big directors, you, the big agents, you, the big financiers, and you, the big rival studio chiefs. You, the big actors, you, the big actresses, you, the big models." Weinstein may be in jail for the rest of his life, but it is distinctly possible that many people who have aided and abetted him have escaped justice forever. As Rose McGowan put it, quote, "This is an international... This is the truth of what it is. This is an international factory. Every single place he ever stayed, there are people there set up to help him. This is how it went. This is what it was. People, women, girls would be told, you have a meeting, or come to a party. They would show up, and that party was just him. Who got them there? Who were the assistants? There was a massive machinery. He is a sociopathic predator. He thinks he's done nothing wrong. I wish just one person would have stood up and said, no more. Because so many people had so many chances to put a stop to this.